Tracy Truman, I just want to address one real narrow issue, and that is the map that is before, that we were provided, that I know Commissioner Robb's worked on, and his comments earlier today about Cold Creek and Lee Canyon, Kyle Canyon. If you leave the outskirts of Las Vegas, for those of you who are not familiar with it, and you drive north, like you're going to Tonopah or Ely, and you go 20 miles from the outskirts, not 20 miles from the center of town, 20 miles from the outskirts, you come to the Cold Creek turnoff. And what is the first thing you run into when you get to the Cold Creek turnoff? Prison. It's a prison. Is a prison something that we typically put in a congested area in the context of what this legislation is about? My answer is no. Where is the nearest prison in Tonopah? Well, it's about 12 miles that way. I was there, not at the prison, but I was there in that direction last night. Those are not uses that we would consistently associate with congested areas. And yet, on the map, we have the entire road. I understand Chairman Robb's concerned perhaps about the little village of Cold Creek, but you have the entire road. The same is true with respect to the Lee Canyon Road. I have it on first-hand authority that if you park along that road, park off the shoulder of the highway, you will receive a citation from the Nevada Highway Patrol. They do not allow you to park off the road. There's only one road, one dirt road that takes off the Lee Canyon Road. It goes over to Deer Creek Spring. So there's only one road off of there, and yet here again you've got the entire road that's all pink, as in, you know, you have this 48-hour. So I think that's needless, is my point. And the same is true with respect to Kyle Canyon. Most of those areas, the same thing. So my only critique of the map is that it doesn't make much sense along the roads, because it really, I don't know why you would choose that limitation along those roads. So that's my input. Thank you.
Amanda, and then Jim Kern.
My name is Amanda Crawford, Las Vegas. Hi, I am a student at UNLV and I support trapping as it is now. I just want to say that people at UNLV are more concerned with human trafficking and war than they are with animals and trapping. And in fact, the only thing that I have heard of from my classmates is that they're afraid of their dogs getting eaten by coyotes, and that are already venturing down into the areas where we live. Thank you.
Jim, and then I think it's Joan Lalibert, and if I mess that up, I apologize.
For the record, Jim Curran, Churchill County Wildlife Advisory Board. At our meeting this last week, we voted unanimously to oppose the committee's recommendations in regards to the maps and in regards to proposed demerit changes. One of the discussions, and just my background, I have been actually attending commission meetings now 53 years in June, which is now. But I do remember when the demerit system was first established, and I think the sportsmen primarily supported it, and that was to establish a point system based on the severity of the impact to the resource, number one, violations that had a financial impact, that was about number two, and then those other violations that are on the books that basically were called methodology type, or we were referred to them as methodology. And to propose a change in the merits in regards to visitation, that would fall to me under a methodology. If you get cited for an unplugged shotgun while duck hunting, it's 3 points. That's a methodology. It doesn't really have an impact to the resource. If you're using too many fishing rods and you don't have a second rod stamp, that's a methodology violation. That's a 3-pointer. That's what it should be. If you're hunting big game with prohibited caliber, that's a 3-pointer. You're fishing unattended rod, you're leaving a set line. A baited trap, as long as you don't catch a raptor, is a 3-pointer. So I don't know, originally this whole concept was set up to do with the severity of the violation, and how all of a sudden you can elevate this one up into the level of some of these hunting without a tag, some of these other, a double limit of trout would be the same. And to me, that has a severe impact on the resource. In regards to the second proposal, that trespass, which really, as you know, the trespass law, or the Commission Regulation 503, or this, not the regulation, NRS, that deals with trespass. And NRS 207 defines in Nevada what trespass is. Now, you're talking about making a 12-point willful trespass equivalent to killing a bald eagle, shooting deer out of season, hunting out of season. I don't know how.
Okay, we're at 3.
County game boards don't get 6?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. The term willful, I would assume there's not a court in the land that would probably say other than that that's intentional. I can't even visualize as a sportsman how you could trespass on someone's posted property as per NRS 207 that isn't willful. Now you're actually saying, if I was fly fishing on the Walker River, because you were talking just trapping this morning, but you're talking hunting, fishing, and trapping is a 12-pointer. Well, it's private land on the Walker River, the whole river. So I walk down onto private land. I could lose my hunting, fishing, and trapping privileges for 5 years because I willfully, there's no other way to trespass except for willfully, trespassing on somebody's property. Now, again, you were emphasizing trapping, but you're talking about if I shot a duck and it goes over in the Hammy Kent's field in Fallon and I go over and retrieve it, I could be out of business for 5 years. I think you should really reconsider what you're asking for, and to compare that to a poaching or shooting an endangered species. I mean, that's not even close to apples and oranges. So, okay, thank you.
Joan, maybe you can correct your name if I got it wrong. And then Mike Olson next.
I'm short. Joan La Liberté. I'm representing myself. I'm a Tonopah resident. And a little background about me. My name is French-Canadian. My father's family also has Métis or mixed blood in it. And trapping is something that my ancestors did in Canada, and something that the native peoples did, along with hunting and so on. One of the things I have been taught is that out of respect for the animals, we do not inflict suffering. Rather, we try to minimize suffering. The people I know and know well hunt not for sport, but for their survival. And again, one does not inflict pain or harm. Now, you all are in a terrible position because you're going to have some pain just making the decisions and having people mad at you. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Hard decisions, and I respect whatever you choose. The trappers, again, I have certain empathy for them, and I know that they are honorable people who do not want to inflict unnecessary pain and would not be cruel. Therefore, I think, all things considered, it might be good to look at not going 4 days with an animal trapped and suffering. That seems extreme. And I think we do need regulations, because if we don't, we are going to be subject to people from, say, PETA, HSUS, and the animal extremists. And I do not think that is a very logical thing either. So we need some rules, some regulations, some science in this, so that we're not being unnecessarily cruel, but that we do respect what we're doing and we do respect the creatures that we use. Thank you.
Mike, and then Bill Taylor.
Thank you. Mike Olson, Churchill County Advisory Board. My request is simple, that the commission please hear for the public and for yourselves, for the record, the determination that all county advisory boards had for this matter, and please respect the political process that is involved with that, and all the other people involved with this who came to those county advisory boards and sought input on this matter. Please respect their input as well, and I would ask that that's read for the record. Thank you.
Bill, and then Deborah Stillwater.
Yes, Bill Taylor, and I'm representing myself. Some of my issues have been already answered by you people up there, especially the guy on the far end and the guy just before me. So I'd back him on the county game board's recommendations on a lot of this. I'm actually a third generation trapper. My great grandfather was a trapper or my grandfather was in southern Utah. My father was a trapper for 32 years. I've been one for over 41 years. I don't want to say how many animals I've caught because the people against that have an issue with that. I do know that the studies that were made by Fish and Wildlife Service when we were studying it showed that the average catch time on a coyote was 3 days, because it takes 3 days for human odor to leave a set. I trap mostly coyotes. I'm retired now, and I catch mostly coyotes myself because I prefer doing that. And I'm in a different county, and I feel for the people in Clark and Washoe that I'd back whatever they want to go for. I don't want to be telling them what to do, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Deborah, and then Joe Bennett after that.
Deborah Stillwater, born and raised Las Vegas, Nevada. And I just want to say that I really wish you'd keep everything as it is. As a wife of a trapper, there are times where stuff just, I like to say the real word, but stuff just happens. And you break down. We've been through umpteen engines and cars. Things happen. So thank you. Thank you for your help, too.
Joe, and then Glenn Bunch.
For the record, my name's Joe Bennett. I'm here representing myself. I spent several days trying to come up with some magical words to change all your minds and make you vote in favor of the trappers, and Commissioner Macbeth stole them all. First, concerning the trapping issue, we need to define what the problem is. That's already been said. I'll make it quick. I don't see the problem. I don't see changing it to 24 hours is going to keep dogs out of traps. Use the science. Mr. Wasley, Director Wasley said earlier, he said in one of his speeches, he said, let science dictate your decision. And that's what I would agree with. The argument that we should go the way other states have went, surrounding states, let's look at California. I hope we never go that way. Oregon, they have so many wildlife problems with coyotes and mountain lions. They're going to have the same thing in California with bears now. They got it with lions and coyotes. So I would argue that we're not like California and Oregon. We're different. We're way different here in Nevada. We're 86% public land. I would hope we would leave Nevada like it is. Demerits, you're going to leave this definition up to a game warden. He's going to decide if I do agree with Mr. Robb. I think it's very, very serious that someone would purposely go on another person's property and trap and maybe even catch their companion animal. But boy, you're leaving the definition up to a warden of your destiny to be able to hunt, fish, and trap for the next 5 years if you didn't see a sign or something, and made the mistake. I would not like my destiny just to be in the interpretation of a game warden's decision, whether it was flagrant. And I've went to 2 of the meetings. I went to the marathon one in Las Vegas, and I went to the one in Elko. So I really would like to thank the trapping committee. I mean, they were great. They let people talk as much as they wanted to. The one in Vegas, 8 hours, and then I drove back to Ely. We got pulled over on the way back for having a tail light out on our license plate. That's a new one for me. So anyway, but I do have to make one comment. I respect Commissioner Lane, but earlier, and I wrote it down when she said it, she said, any time an animal spins in a trap is too long.
30 seconds.
That's it. That's all I had to say. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys make the right decision here today.
Glenn, is Glenn still here? Charlie Cicchini? And then I got Miles Humphrey next.
Charlie Zucchini, Nye County Advisory Board. I'm trying out new hearing aids, and I don't think they're working too good. Right, I heard you. I'm also on the board of directors of the Trapping Association, and I just want to get up here and tell you guys, naturally, I support everything that Joel Blakely said, and also Kevin told you what the Nye County Game Board voted for, and I just don't see any reason for a 24-hour trap check. I think the 96-hour is fine. It's worked for a long time, and also I think all the trapping regulations should be left just as they are. Thank you.
Miles Humphrey. And then Gil, I got you next.
Miles Humphreys. First, I want to speak on behalf of Washoe Cab. We recommended that the commission deny the proposed 24-hour visitation. Nobody liked it. It was just not good at all. And same thing, we also denied the proposed maps. Now, as far as the demerits, we also said don't make any changes for the demerits. We were fully in support of trapping educations for both sides, not only for the trapper, but for the general public as well. The questions that kind of came up about that is where would the funding come for the education? And as far as the mock LCB, we said that it needs to be rejected as written, as it appeared that there was already an outcome predetermined. And it wasn't on the agenda to take any action. Now that was on behalf of the CAB. On behalf of myself, I totally agree with what Mr. Macbeth said. Trapping is legal, and it's been there for a long time, 96 hours. When we start tweaking it and start narrowing it down and not allowing trappers to do what is legal and for them to be able to do, which is trap, it's going to create headaches. And it'd be no more different than if with something with hunting. Next thing you know, we're going to be told where to hunt, how to hunt, and how much time. And it's just something that is there and it's worked, and we shouldn't tweak it, and we shouldn't try to do anything that hasn't already worked for as long as it's worked. Shoot, I had another point I wanted to make, but my personal recommendation is trappers do a good job. They are very knowledgeable in what they do, and it's been working for as long as it's worked, and I don't think that we should change it to accommodate the few select people that are opposed against it. So that's all. Thank you much.
Gil, and then I have Jed Rybolds.
For the record, Gil Yannick, representing Friends of Nevada Wildlife. I've been a dog owner all my adult life. It is my responsibility, and my responsibility only, for the care and safety of my animals. If I knowingly take my animal into an area where there could be trapping, and I let him off the leash, something happens to that animal, gets involved in a trap one way or the other, not the dog's fault, it's not the trapper's fault, it's my fault. This whole thing seemed to have gone back a while because some animals got caught in a trap, and it kind of escalated from there, and I understand some of that. Before I joined the Carson City Cab back in 2002, I didn't know very much about trapping. I still don't know very much about trapping, but I talked to a lot of trappers. I try to understand it from their perspective. We talked about education. I think education of the trappers, education of the general public is extremely important and can be a real solution to a lot of the problems we've been discussing for the last couple of years on this subject. We talked about economics. Everybody points to me when it comes to economics because of my experience in the public sector. In talking to trappers, the longer that animal stays in that trap, the less valuable that pelt can become. So it behooves them to try to get to that trap as soon as possible, as often as possible, in the event they have captured something, to protect the value of the pelt. For a lot of the people that I talk to, trapping is not just a part-time thing. To a lot of them, it represents a major part of their family income. And what you've heard from a lot of the trappers and from some other people, by imposing certain time limits, they're not going to be able to do everything they used to do. And a byproduct of that means they cover less territory, they're out in they have to give up more things, and maybe it's going to result in less income to them. That will be a hardship. I don't have the solution. You guys are going to make the decision. I think you're going to listen to everybody and use your best judgment. I mean, we trust you guys. You've been up there, you know it, and you're making the tough decision, and we're just trying to give you the right perspective, and so that you don't miss anything when you make that decision. Thank you very much.
Jed, and then Trish Swain next.
Jed Ryback, for the record. I just want to say I appreciate the amount of time you guys have put into this. But doing a 24-hour trap check in northern Washoe will affect me personally. I've trapped that 194 Mount Rose Wilderness area in the surrounding mountains, run it for over a decade now. I was born and raised in Reno. I've never had any dog-human conflicts. The people haven't changed. They stay on the trails, and they stay on the roads. They don't go, hey, let's go walk to that rock pile, half a mile up the hill and see what's around there. They don't do it, and responsible trappers don't seem to have any problems. I am a little concerned about the considering part of this, like still haven't come up with any direct problems. And let me see here. There's already current stipulations in place, 1,000 feet away from a trail, congested area, houses. Those seem to have taken care of many of the problems that we had. And I just feel like we're kind of opening Pandora's box with this. This isn't going to be the end of it. I mean, next year the legislation bill is going to come up in 24-hour state checker. We need to add this hunt unit area. And I think it's a really slippery slope that we're going to start to fall down. And I'm worried, in 10 years I'm not going to be able to set a trap or take my grandkids on a trap line. And that scares me. I mean, we've been doing the 96-hour thing forever. It's kind of like we have a round tire rolling down the road. Why go make it square again? Go back to square one. And on another note, since I wasn't here yesterday, I do believe that the feral horses in this state are a problem. I know that's off subject, but I wasn't here. I just want to throw that out there. Thank you for your time.
Trish, and then Mike Campos.
Trish Swain, Trail Safe Nevada. I want to really thank the members of the committee. I know how hard you've worked. I know how hard it's been for all of you, and I'm very grateful for the time that you have put in and the attention that you have put into this enormous amount of detail that has sprung up much to my surprise, which I certainly did not anticipate when I started down this road, the amount of detail and the amount of technicalities that we've encountered. I in no way anticipated. And I'm going to quote Commissioner Lane again, because any time spent in a trap is too long as far as I'm concerned. So I think she put that as well as it can possibly be put. I strongly urge you to go ahead and take the recommendations of this hardworking committee. We've had, by my count, 7 meetings. I don't know about what happened with the first couple there in January and December. But anyway, I think the chronology that Dave gave us was very good. And I urge you to accept the findings, the recommendations, the maps that they have come up with. I don't see where any further testimony will change anything. We've heard all the arguments over and over again. And I think they've come up with a compromise. It's not everything Trail Safe wanted. That's politics. That's how politics goes. We had our first disappointment when SB 213 was amended, as I've told you many times and as people have referred to today. And because they left us with mission impossible. It was an effort to make what they saw as a fair compromise. They didn't want to make a decision, a self-enacting decision at that time. So they threw it back to you in, I think, the hope that this would be a fair compromise. And that's what we ended up with, and what we ended up with was certainly not what we anticipated or what our intent was. And there's still, it's astonishing to me that so many people are saying they don't know why we've pursued this, why we travel at our own personal expense, why we spend so much time, so much effort on this cause, and that is because it is a cause. Your constituents are the animals. They're not the trappers. They're not us. Your constituents are these animals, in my view. And these animals deserve your protection, and that is what you're pledged to do, to protect these animals from needless suffering, from 4 days being maimed, bleeding, having no hope, having no help, wanting to get away, and finally giving up, just lying there in utter despair. It's a horrible, horrible. And to people who have this as an everyday experience, they don't see anything so horrible about it. To me, if I saw one of you, maybe you had a car accident and you're lying there suffering, I'd want to get you out of that suffering as quickly as I could. I could stand it to see you suffering for that length of time. And that's the way I feel when I hear about an animal suffering. And when we go out in public and we do educate the public and we show them pictures, or we even show them a trap or a picture of a trap, I've had people burst into tears, and people say, oh, how can this happen? Why is this happening? So there's a lot of public sentiment. It's not organized, it's not focused, it's not directed as the trappers are focused and directed and have their alliances. And the other thing I wanted to say regarding science, the sciences that are at play here, in my view, are sociology and psychology. And that's been pointed out very wisely by members of the committee. Commissioner Robb has pointed it out. Commissioner McNinch has pointed it out. Commissioner Drew. What we have here are alliances. What we have here are peer relationships, loyalties, traditions, family attachments, and I understand all that. I respect all that. I respect that people's feelings are getting hurt or people are being angered. Today I had a great experience at breakfast because I had the opportunity to sit down with a couple of people who were loudly enough so that I could hear it at the next table talking about all this. And we sat down and we had a great conversation. And I said, gee, this is the way I wish it always could be. It's very difficult to stand up and give your sound bite. It's so nice to sit around a table, talk to people, experience each other as individuals and respect one another and talk about all this. And there's no way that I'm going to back down from my profound belief that animals are suffering needlessly and that we need to do something about it. But I think the solution can be found perhaps in a different forums, smaller group committees, somehow having more interpersonal, less stressful discussions about it if we're going to go on. I hope we don't go on. I hope you accept the recommendations of the committee today and we don't go on with this process for months on end, to tell you the truth. And also I've heard the phrases. I've heard skin in the game. Well, literally, who has skin in the game? The animals. Who is giving a pound of flesh? I think that the animal is giving a pound of flesh. Who is being subject to genocide? Well, I think that's a tremendous exaggeration, but I think animals are being subjected to, we don't know. The bobcat discussion, I don't pose myself as a bobcat expert, but from the bobcat discussion, we don't know how many are alive. We know how many died because you have those jaws. But we still don't know really how many bobcats we have and what the impact of all this trapping, because when we hear the numbers, 3,000 last year, those numbers are truly frightening. And I think they need a lot more examination. I don't know really how many animals we have left. So those are the points I've made many a time over, and I'm making them again. And I just do thank the committee very, very sincerely for all the effort they have put in, and I truly hope that you accept their recommendations. Thank you.
Mike? Karen after Mike.
For the record, my name is Mike Campos, and my opinions are my own. I'm going to take a different kind of angle on this. The wildlife management, the predator management is a big part of that, and trapping contributes to that very much. And I agree with Commissioner Macbeth that I think that this 24-hour check is being used as a tool to deter trappers from getting out there and trapping. And these are around highly populated areas. So if the trappers aren't out there managing the predators, to me that seems like it gives the predator group an opportunity to thrive. And then that's going to affect the wildlife count on other animals, and eventually it's going to surge down into these public areas. I don't agree with this 24-hour check in any part of the state. And that's what I'm here to say. Thank you.
Karen and then Richard Pabst.
For the record, Karen Taylor, Washoe County resident. You know what, I'm just not going to say anything. Please accept the maps. Everyone's worked really hard. Thank you very much. I can't say anything better than Tricia said.
Steve Nelson's next.
Hi, Richard Papp, Southern Nevada Coalition for Wildlife. Coalition is looking at this from a number of perspectives, and one of those is just an outright war on our heritage and where we are today. We want to look at honesty in the approaches. I think the sportsmen have been pretty honest. The trappers reduce these animals to pelts. We know that, it's consumptive. Hunters reduce the game to meat. Fishermen, if they choose to keep it, reduce the game to meat. The honesty on the other side, though, very vague. They talk about psychology, they talk about sociology, they talk about what they're willing to barter here, or this agreement. But while we're on a break, the agreement here, you hear the discussion is, well, whatever we get today, we'll get more next year. The agreement is strictly an end to the way of life. That first .410 shotgun at the age of 9, forget about it. Watching your father or your grandfather come back from an elk hunt, forget about it. They have one mission only, and that is to completely eradicate hunting, fishing, trapping. They feel they have a more enlightened view of the world. They are better individuals. They see things differently than we are. We are hicks, we are rednecks, we are whatever. You've been given this pie to look at. And I think the concept is that some of you looked at it by saying, well, we have to do this. We have to take action on this. No, you had to consider it. So the consideration should be the overall nature of what you do should not be in brokering a deal with people who have no interest in what you broker. Because what you broker today is meaningless to them because they have a different brokerage in mind. You can turn this around and stop it, because if you don't, look around. This is going to be the fatal flaw, the tear in the fabric that people will look back on and say that's when the Nevada heritage of being outdoor sportsmen began to die with that group. Thank you.
Mr. Paps, did you say that your comments were representative of the Southern Nevada Wildlife Coalition?
Did.